Hello everyone, and welcome back to Biscuits and Gravy. Yes, the last time we did this, we forgot to explain our incredibly catchy title that we came up with, but here it is, Biscuits, Gravy. Me and my dad talking about whatever it is that we want to talk about. And today, what that is Les Miz, because even though I just released an hour-long video talking about this musical, I still have more to say, and we both do. So what we're going to do, we're going to make a little mini-series where we talk about kind of songs from Les Miz that we really liked, and we want to kind of analyze them a little bit, talk about why they resonated with us, and just why we think that they're really cool songs. So today, we're going to be doing a little focus on the character of Javert with the song Stars and the song Javert's Suicide, his solo and his death song. So trigger warning for anyone out there, we will be talking about suicide within this video, so if that's any sort of an issue for you, then you might want to click away.
And I think we're also going to put in the little notes below the video some resources and things that would be helpful to anyone that might have either a temptation or a suffering or some sort of attachment to anything like that.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later, but I think first off we want to talk about Stars, Javert's solo. This happens not quite halfway through the show. Valjean and Javert have just missed each other in a way. Javert has realized that he's kind of stumbled across this man that he's been looking for I guess over 10 years now. So he sings a song kind of as a way to restate his goals and take a vow to always hunt down this man because justice is what he's all about. So to start off, we kind of wanted to talk about the music of the song, which goes without saying. But this song is quite interesting musically speaking with how it relates to the rest of the show. I talked a little bit about this in my hour-long video that I made, which you can check out if you want. But this is a song which doesn't really have any other leitmotifs which are introduced throughout the show. It's a melody that you don't really hear anywhere else except for one other place, which we'll talk about later. But I think it's very appropriate that this is a song which is sort of isolated from everything else in the show because Javert as a character is very isolated. He sees himself as being kind of above everyone else and having this righteousness that nobody else possesses. And it serves as an interesting insight into his character. Because obviously that's kind of the purpose of like a solo in a musical is to get inside the head of a character, which is very valuable in Javert's case because he's so closed off to everyone and he doesn't broadcast all of his internal feelings. And it's interesting because how the music sounds kind of isn't what you would expect from Javert, because for the whole show he's so harsh and intimidating, and then we open up with this very sweet very sweet harp melody, which, it's just kind of not what you would expect when you think of Javert. You wouldn't expect to hear a melody like this. But it ends up being very appropriate because, like I said, it's in a harp, or at least I think it's in a harp, and it gives it that kind of heavenly feel, which is appropriate because Javert has this very, holy, righteous view within himself that, he is, perfectly aligned with the righteous way of doing things. And it has this kind of, stepwise motion going, up and down, up and down.
Yeah, it's as I like to call it, it sounds kind of like a walkabout beat. You looked up the time signature of this song and it's actually 12/8.
Yes, it's in 12/8.
So there is kind of a triple beat that goes with a treble beat that goes with the music. So it sounds almost like you could waltz to it.
Yeah, a little bit.
But let's listen to some.
So there's that, like I said, it's very stepwise, it's very orderly, which I think, it's like just up and down, and it kind of persists throughout the whole song. It's sort of like a backbone to it all, because even though, it has these moments where the music swells and crescendos and everything, it's very epic, that backbone is always there, which I think is obviously quite reminiscent of Javert as a character. He has this extremely firm ideology that he holds to no matter what, and it's what informs everything that he does. And I think it's interesting the way that the music does build, and it's like kind of basic, songwriting ideas, but like when the harp is kind of the main melody, he's just sort of like resting in his confidence about how the world works, but as he reflects on those ideals, his conviction grows because it's sort of just a natural progression for him, and so the music kind of builds up to reflect this determination that he has inside of him.
Yep. And I just thought of this. This is one of the funny things when we talk about the music, things just pop up in our heads when we talk about it. The triple beat that the music is played to, I don't know, the rhythm, I should say, the rhythm of the song is reminiscent of a waltz. Mm-hmm. And having danced a little bit in my life, waltzes are romantic. Mm-hmm. So it's, and Javert's a little bit of a narcissist. A little
so
bit, yeah. So he's kind of in love with himself. I mean, this all kind of came to mind just now. And
I guess, I mean, more appropriately, he's in love with
He's in love with the law, yes, that
which
too.
is kind of what he's singing, you know, to the stars in this song. Because
right,
he sees the stars as like these bastions of order, so it's like a love song between him and the law.
That's what's kind of funny about this. So here's this harsh criminal singing a love song.
Well, not a criminal.
No, I'm sorry.
Harsh pursuer of criminals.
This harsh cop. He's a very harsh cop.
Yes.
Singing a love song to the law, to himself.
Yes.
Under the stars, with this this rhythmic waltz-like beat, with a harp and everything else that goes with it.
So now we want to talk about the lyrics, and we're kind of looking to examine what kind of themes you find within this song. Specifically, obviously, there's kind of that theme of order with the stars. Like I said, it's kind of a love song between Javert and the law, and
to him, the law and everything that's right is beautiful.
Yeah.
The stars, the order, what's right.
Something I didn't get to say about the melody earlier, but it's interesting. The harp melody is kind of twinkling, sort of like the stars, which kind of fits into the. And
then the themes applied to Valjean, who he's chasing, are pretty ominous. There's darkness, there's falling. Yeah, there's
lots of references to falling in this song, which, as we'll discuss later, I'm sure were completely intentional.
Yeah. Paying the price. Yeah. You know, if you have to listen through the song and catch things that maybe pop in just once or twice, but so on the side of the righteous, who is Javert, you have order, light, righteousness.
He also is invoking God specifically.
Yes.
Illustrating like, I am on the side of everything that is good. I am on the side of God and light and the stars and Valjean. Disgusting little worm that he is. Yeah,
he knows his way in the dark. He's a fugitive. He's running. He's fallen. He is falling. He's not just falling, but he's falling.
Yeah, keeps on falling.
And there's fire and sword that will come upon those who fall. Yeah. And it's really bad for people that are against Javert.
Yeah, I think we don't want to just like recite all the lyrics here. I should have said this earlier, probably, listen to the song if you have a chance. There are lots of different versions out there, quite easy to find. You can probably find some on YouTube. You definitely find them on like Apple Music and that sort of thing. The version we're kind of using is Norm Lewis's version from the 25th anniversary, because if that hasn't been made clear yet, I absolutely love the 25th anniversary. That's kind of my go-to version. And Norm Lewis is just a fantastic Javert, period. And his version is very good. Yeah,
it is. I think he's the best singer, the best Javert singer. Some of the others may act as good as Norm Lewis, or even better in the acting part, but he's by far the best singing Javert.
Cue a bunch of angry Philip Quast fans if they ever find it. Although I do want to say, I do like how Philip Quast performs the song. I like how when it says, "And so it must be, for so it is written," he shouts "be," and I like. And
Michael Ball's a very good Javert in the 10th anniversary.
It's not the 10th anniversary. Philip Quast was in the 10th anniversary.
Okay, sorry. Then it was that.
It was the 2019 staged concert.
Okay.
Not quite the 35th anniversary.
But hey, they're all good.
Yes,
they're all good. Or they wouldn't be on these great recordings that we've seen and heard.
So share your favorite Javert in the comments below.
And why?
Yeah.
But so the lyrical themes are clear cut.
Yeah.
There's the right and wrong.
Yeah.
And I'll have to find a way to describe this better later, but he can't deal with good.
Yeah.
I think he can deal with bad,
Well, because he kind of knows how
Yeah.
to.
He associates bad and wrong as equivalent, I think.
It's like, if it's right, it's good. But if it wasn't right, therefore it can't be good because it wasn't right.
Right, correct. But what Javert can't deal with is mercy.
Yeah.
And I want to find something to read from the book that helps us understand, how he ticks. So earlier in the story, and we'll cover this in another song, Javert has Valjean in his grasp.
Just about.
Just about. And he's gloating internally. So this is kind of long, but bear with me. So
this is, by the way, from the 2008 Julie Rose translation.
This is the book. The one you said they call it The Brick.
The Brick, yes.
Yeah, it's actually almost big enough for us to put the camera on, but we wanted to use it to read from, so we put the camera on a box. So he has Valjean in his grasp, and he's thinking to himself. Here's what Victor Hugo says. Without being fully aware of it, yet with a confused intuition of his own indispensable status and of his success, he personified, Javert, justice, enlightenment, and truth in their heavenly function and of crushing evil. He had behind him and around him, at infinite depth, authority, reason, precedent, the conscience of the law, the vengeance of the law, all the stars in the firmament. He protected order. He called forth the thunder of the law. He avenged society. He came to the aid of the absolute. He stood erect in a blaze of glory. There was in his victory a trace of defiance and of combat. Standing tall, arrogant, resplendent, he displayed out in the open for all the world to see the superhuman bestiality of a bloodthirsty archangel. The fearful shadow of the act he was performing made visible in his clenched fist, with the dull flashing of the social sword. Happy and outraged, he held crime, vice, revolt, perdition, hell, pinned beneath his heel. He shone, he exterminated, he smiled, and there was an incontestable grandeur in this monstrous Saint Michael. Okay, so that's Javert, and I think this is the man who sees, who's kind of looking into a mirror as he sings this song.
Yeah.
It's like this is that narcissist.
Oh yeah.
I thought of just now.
Yeah.
So he's in love with himself. This is what he's feeling.
Yeah.
All the time because he's crushing criminals and bringing them into justice and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And as he finishes the song, the concluding melody is important to remember for later on because it's kind of triumphant sounding.
Yeah, that isn't quite at the end of the song. I think the melody you're thinking of, you can find it here, editing magic.
It's right before the last verse.
Yeah, and then
he's feeling very triumphant.
Yeah.
And this is when he makes his final appeal, a prayer. He actually begs God.
Yes.
He's singing to the stars and kind of praying to the stars, but he's also singing and praying to God because he believes God is on his side.
Yes. Yeah. And some performers, like when one of those performances, he actually makes the sign of the cross in this part. And that's, just a little interpretation that he adds to it. It's just interesting to see how Javert is a character. He does worship God in a way, but he worships God in as much as God is supposed to be the idea of order. To get into it a little bit, he worships the idea of the just God. He does not worship the idea of the merciful Savior, Jesus Christ.
Right. And that's kind of what we see here when, again, he's described as...
bloodthirsty archangel.
Well, he's described as personifying authority, reason, precedent, the conscience of the law, the vengeance of the law, all the stars in the firmament. The song is called Stars.
Yeah.
And as you said, the stars are fixed in the heavens as he sings, and it's like they can't be moved.
No.
So that's a metaphor for him and the law. It's right, it's there, and it can't change.
It never changes. And of course, the music all swells up, and there's a nice, big, epic, long note that we end on.
Yeah.
This I swear by the stars.
But as stated within the song, the stars sometimes fall, and Javert's seemingly unshakable views do eventually get kind of completely shattered. And after Valjean shows him mercy and spares his life, Javert kind of finds his whole worldview rocked, and that's explored within the song Javert's Suicide. As we said before, again, trigger warning for any of you out there. So yeah, the song, musically speaking, it's a direct reprise of Valjean's soliloquy from much earlier in the show. We're going to talk a little bit about this in my hour-long video, but it's an interesting example of kind of a duality that is found between Valjean and Javert about how, in some ways they're similar, but they're kind of two sides of the same coin in a way. In this, they've both been in a similar situation where someone has showed them mercy, and that was very much not what they were expecting, the last thing they expected to experience, and now they're just having to kind of reevaluate everything that they ever believed about life in response to this.
Right, because Valjean was shown mercy by the bishop, and it completely changed his life.
Yes.
He responded to it in a way vastly different from the way Javert responds to mercy.
Yes.
I want to read another excerpt from the book. This will give us an idea of how Javert feels about justice and goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back a ways into the story, you know that Valjean has been living under the name Madeleine. He becomes the mayor of Montreux-sur-Mer, right? So he's living under a false identity, but Javert suspects something. He looks a little bit like this guy Valjean. He's very strong, and he has all these characteristics of the man Jean Valjean. So he actually suspects him and secretly goes to the police in Paris, and he denounces Madeleine. Yeah. As if that guy is Valjean, and we need to haul him in.
Yeah.
So he's not believed, and he's sent back. And in the meantime, they catch this man Chamotu, who's stealing apples. He's accused of stealing apples. Sorry. Yeah. He's his doppelganger, right? Yeah, he's Valjean's.
For whatever reason, he looks just
his
like
twin.
Jean Valjean. So since Chamotu has been caught, Javert is told about this, and he goes to Monsieur Madeleine's office to apologize, say, I'm sorry, I thought you were Jean Valjean, but we caught the real Jean Valjean, so, fire me.
So he goes, I confess I denounced you to the police, and I'm sorry, and you need to fire me, because I'm not worthy of being a policeman.
But then Monsieur Madeleine says, no, it's fine, keep your job, it's not a big deal. Yeah. But this is one of the things Javert says in response to that. Yeah,
so there's a little bit of I wouldn't say, I guess it is an argument, because Javert he's offended that Valjean won't fire him. Yeah. He really is. So this is what he says in response to that. He says, I have often been hard on my life, on others. It was just. I did the right thing. So now, if I weren't hard on myself, everything I've ever done right would be wrong. Am I supposed to go softer on myself than on others? No. Heavens, if I was only good for chastising others and not myself, I'd be a miserable swine indeed. And those who call me that mongrel Javert would be right. Monsieur le Maire, I don't want you to treat me with goodness. Your goodness to others has made my blood boil. I don't want it for myself. Your goodness that consists of ruling in favor of the strumpet against the bourgeois citizen, the policeman against the mayor, the underdog against the top dog, is what I call bad goodness. It's that sort of goodness that brings society down. God, it's as easy as winking to be good, the hard thing is to be just. Listen, if you had been what I thought you were, I wouldn't have been good to you, not me. You'd have copped it. Monsieur le Maire, I must deal with myself the way I deal with anyone else. Whenever I sent wrongdoers down, whenever I locked up scoundrels, I would often say to myself, if you ever slip up, if I ever catch you in the wrong, just look out. I did slip up. I did catch myself in the wrong. Too bad. So let's go. Booted out. Cashiered. Dismissed. Only right. I have arms. I'll work the land. I don't mind. Monsieur le Maire, for the good of the service, make an example of me. I simply request the dismissal of Inspector Javert. So, this guy is so hardcore, so by the book, that he's not willing to accept any charity or mercy for himself. And I guess there's something noteworthy about that. He's consistent. You gotta give him that.
But the thing I think which kind of comes to light in his suicide is that in that moment he's talking to Monsieur Madeleine, who he thinks is, the reputable mayor who he was wrong about. So even though Javert says, like, I don't want to accept goodness from you, he would be much more willing to accept it from someone who is, this beacon of the law, which is the thing that he respects more than anything else. Whereas later in the show, when Valjean spares his life, that's when he knows exactly who Valjean is, and he's like this criminal who can't possibly be good.
Yeah.
And now he is to accept mercy from him, like he says in the song.
Damned if I live in the den of a thief! Damned if I yield at the end of the chase! I am the law, and the law is not mocked! I'll spit his pity right back in his face!
Right. So, and even the first verse of the...
Who is this man? What sort of devil is he to have me caught in a trap and choose to let me go free?
Oh man, he just... When you kind of stack all these things on top of themselves, he went to the mayor, and thinking the mayor was this, like you said, this reputable magistrate, the ruler of the town. Then he finds out that he really is Javert. So, and then Javert shows him mercy.
Valjean.
Or Valjean, yeah. Valjean shows him mercy, and he's like that computer in Star Trek that Captain Kirk confused with the logic. You have to just story out everything that's bad, and you were bad, and you destroy yourself. And forgive me, members of the audience, I mean not to make light of suicide. This is very serious. I personally know 3 people who have taken their own lives. We both know someone who has attempted to take their life, and I'm sorry if we're showing any kind of
it's a sort
lack
of
of
thing,
respect. I guess we're getting caught up in kind of the criticism of the story.
We kind of want to make that distinction that it's
Right.
one thing when you're talking about a character who commits suicide. It's another thing with a real person. But I think the thing about this song is that it is a tragic end, because another thing which is stated within the book, and I don't need to find the quote right now, but Javert was made up of 2 good things: respect for the law and hatred of rebellion, and those are good things, but he made them bad by his exaggeration of them. So Javert could have been, he was obviously very good at his job, and he could have been really a great person overall if he hadn't just gotten so caught up in this single-minded idea of justice, and if he hadn't just completely dismissed this idea of mercy. And that's kind of the tragedy that you see within this song.
And in the fact that it is a human life that's lost. Because he really is rich with these other things. And has probably done quite a lot of good for society by bringing criminals in, bringing them to justice, getting them off the streets. So I'm sorry if I was flying off into a fit of uncharity.
Of Star Trek referencing.
Yeah, Star Trek referencing. But moving through the song, he sings, "How can I allow this man to have dominion over me?" And he's really struggling with this reality that someone can be redeemed, and someone that he can't possibly see changing has changed.
And my thoughts fly apart. Can this man be believed? Shall his sins be forgiven? Shall his crimes be reprieved?
And in a sad way, he also sings, I am reaching, but I fall, and the stars are black and cold. So when we go back to that idea he had of righteousness and being fixed like the stars, even that view of reality in his mind has changed.
Yeah, it seems like everything has just been flipped upside down for him, because if the criminal, the reprobate, can change and show mercy, then what does that mean? The interesting thing to think about, people say kind of like, one of the reasons why Javert was so struck by this, because if he was wrong about Valjean, then who else was he wrong about? All of his life he's lived with this idea that every single thing that he did was right, but now he's being faced with the idea that maybe he was wrong about everything. she was wrong about Valjean.
So he sings, "As I escape now from
As I stare into the void.
I'll escape now from that world, from the world of Jean Valjean. So there's nowhere I can turn. There's no way to go on. That's when he decides to leap from the bridge.
Yeah.
And
There's a moment of despair there.
And there's always hope, in my opinion, if you believe in an afterlife and in judgment of the things we do. I like the show Dr. G, Medical Examiner. If you've never seen it, it's one of those shows where she does autopsies and helps to solve mysteries of why people died, and even help to solve criminal cases. And there was one episode where somebody had committed suicide, or they attempted suicide, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It was a woman who had taken a bunch of sleeping pills, I think. They got her to the hospital, and they successfully thwarted the poisoning. But she was in the hospital, still sick from what she'd done to herself. And she was Catholic, and a priest had come to hear her confession and give her extreme unction, which we know is a sacrament that confers grace. And she later died of I think it might have been a heart attack, like in the next day.
Yeah.
The medical examiner ruled that the heart attack was caused by, it was an effect of the sleeping pills that she had taken. So she had to technically rule it a suicide. Now, this woman's family didn't like that, although they were gratified that she had been seen by a priest and had made her confession. This comment by Dr. G, I think, is very interesting. She says, and it's interesting that she speaks of jumping off a bridge, which is the manner of Javert's suicide. She says, once you jump off the bridge to kill yourself, but change your mind in the middle before you hit, that's still a suicide for me. It may not be for you and your God, but for me, it's still a suicide. And the interesting point here is that as Javert was falling, there's time.
Yeah.
And we don't know in anyone's mind or heart, after they make a decision and before they die, what they think. If they beg forgiveness for what they did, seek God's mercy. We don't know. We can always hope for that. I always hold out hope for that kind of thing.
Yes.
And for anyone that's committed suicide, including the people I know, that's a hope that I carry.
Yes.
That there was a moment of contrition, however brief, that I can hold on to, and especially that they can hold on to for eternity.
So kind of in this last part, we want to focus on kind of the end of the song a little bit, relating to this. This is the moment where he kind of makes that decision to jump. And I would like to highlight again Warren Lewis's performance. Love him as Javert. There's a certain sincerity, I think, that he brings to it in this last part here.
I'll escape now from that world, from the world of Jean Valjean.
I think it's that moment because I think he kind of like looks at the audience, his gaze kind of shifts, and he's speaking to you directly, and just in the way that he delivers it, it's like I said, it's a sincerity to it. Like he truly believes that there's no other option, and it's very chilling in a way to me. I really love that extra thing that he brings to the performance that kind of adds to Javert's character when he becomes less detached for a moment from everyone, and you kind of feel like you in the moment want to try and stop him from what he's about to do, but you can't because he's a fictional character in this performance. But I just really love that little extra bit that he brings to it there.
Yeah, and the music is very powerful.
Yes.
Tragic as it is, they cleverly use the instruments to their best effect. Right as he's really in despair and he's about to leap, the instrumentation that's used are the lower string instruments.
I am reaching, but I fall. And there's nowhere I can turn.
Yeah.
You hear the cello and the bass, and this is something they do quite well throughout the musical. They use them to convey turbulence and upset. Yeah. Because that's what's going through him. You really get a sense of trembling and shaking and kind of a violent.
It's kind of a fear and despair that takes him.
Violence that took over.
Kind of like I said, I think with how that music comes in, intersected with how Norm performs it, really, like I said, it's very chilling. in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and as he sings the final note, which is actually the cry as he falls over the edge.
And in a different performance I've seen from Norm, not in the 25th anniversary, but as he's saying that last note of Go On, he actually changed it to an actual scream, which, you know, brings that much more to it.
Yeah, so, and then as that ends, as he finishes his note, there's a
little reprise of Stars.
And when we listen to the 25th anniversary, the crowd kind of launches into applause as soon as he finishes singing. And I think that's a sincere appreciation of his performance. Yes, he's fantastic. But when you listen to it with Marjorie, her sister, and she goes,
well, even when I first listened to it, I first watched the 10th anniversary on YouTube, and that happens where Javert nips off, and like I said, it's music from Stars, and it has that kind of triumphant feel to it at first, and I was kind of struck by it for a second, and I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. And also when I watched it with my sister.
Let's hear it quickly. I was going to say that as he finishes singing the note and you hear the reprise of Stars, you were saying that
it stuck out to me when I first heard it, and also to my sister when she watched it with us. She hates Les Miz, by the way, but you know, neither here nor there. It sounds very triumphant, and that sounds a bit weird because, like we were saying, this is a very tragic thing that's happened. A man just took his own life. That's not something to be celebrated in any way. But when you listen to it more closely, it's kind of a melancholic reprise in a way. When you compare the two of them, like how this melody sounds here and how it sounds when it's played in Stars, it's played a little bit slower, I think, here in Suicide, and the way that it ends especially is the thing to listen for, because it doesn't end in a good place.
Right, as you hear the end of the reprise from Stars, the audience, at least in the 25th anniversary recording, they begin to applaud. Yeah. And you miss something unless you listen closely, but there's a dissonant chord at the end that underscores the tragedy of this. Yeah. And
I think it kind of illustrates, just kind of that music, I feel like it kind of illustrates the character of Javert. It's starting out in this very triumphant, holy, beautiful place, and falling down, the music kind of descends, and it ends in this kind of dark, dissonant, unresolved place.
Yeah, and I liken it to the Titanic sinking. Because Javert is a huge personality.
He's a force of nature.
Yeah, he's really an interesting character and could have been a very wonderful man.
Yes.
But he had this worldview that was, locked into whatever he was locked into. Yeah. He was unsinkable. You think of the Titanic, and then it hit the iceberg. It was just a tiny little scratch on the side that took it down. Of course, it had other flaws. They've done lots of studies and figured out some things, that there were material issues, and then there might have been some fires in the cargo hold where the coal was kept. Mm-hmm. And Javert had his other flaws and other things going on, and he met this man Valjean who just derailed everything. Yeah.
But Valjean was the iceberg.
Right, but as Javert goes over the edge, when we hear this reprise of the music, it's that, you use that term oddly triumphant, but it's in a way, it's sadly beautiful.
Yeah, it's the sound of kind of a great thing being lost.
Just like a great ship that could have been so great and was in its own ways, and it went down, and sadly Javert goes down, and that's the tragedy, and that's what you hear at the end. The dissonant chord at the end is kind of obscured by the applause of his, for his performance, but it's there, and you need to hear it all in totality to really understand. It puts that capstone on his life, which is a sad epitaph.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of all we had to say there. Obviously, Javert is one of the most intriguing characters, not just in musical theater, but in literature, and it kind of attests to how much the story has endured. But yeah, a little bit of a downer ending with it being a very tragic character, but we have more videos coming out which will hopefully end in not such a sad place, because despite how tragic Les Miserables can be, it really is a story of hope, and, you know, the tragedies that Javert wasn't able to see that hope. But we hope that you enjoyed this video of us talking about all our thoughts about these two songs. Like I said, share your favorite Javert in the comments below, share any thoughts that you have about this song, about the music, the lyrics, whatever, about the book, anything you want to share. We'd love to hear it. But yeah, and I think next time we might be talking a little bit about the character of Eponine, who is also tragic, but maybe not as tragic as you think. But yeah, keep an eye out for that in the near future, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.